Hi, I'm Brian Lord, Senior Vice President here at Premier Speakers Bureau, and very excited here today to have Robert Guest, who is the U.S. editor for The Economist, former business editor for The Economist as well, and all-around good guy. So, Robert, thanks for coming on today.
It's great to be here.
Now, when you are preparing for a speech, now of course this is something that people are going to see in 2015, 2016, with American business audiences specifically, or those that are global companies that are here, what do you think, what are the things that they should know or would want to know over the next year or two?
Well, look, I mean, with each audience, okay, I'm thinking, I mean, my specialism is knowing what's going on globally. I'm looking at the big trends, I'm looking at what's happening in China, I'm looking at what's happening in technology, and I want to be able to try and relate that to whoever the audience are. So if the audience are, you know, for example, in the real estate business, then I'd say, well, okay, what are the trends in technology? What are things like, you know, self-driving cars that that Google are making, or taxi apps that Uber are making, or trends in sort of, you know, maybe young people, you know, wanting to move out of their parents' basements and get married and have kids. You know, what are all those trends going to do to affect building, and how does the real estate market in whatever part of the world you're in compare with what's going on in London and in Shanghai? So I kind of try and make the global issues sort of meaningful for whoever the audience is. You know, it could be a geographic one, it could be an industry. It's just whatever I think people are going to want to know.
Mm-hmm. All right. So Robert, you know, as the U.S. editor, you know, just about every story goes through you in some way, shape, or form. So what, I guess two-part question, but what makes up a good story that goes into The Economist? And two, maybe what's one of your favorite stories?
Well, usually what makes up a story is you're telling people something that's important, you know, that matters about the world, but you're also explaining to them something that they maybe didn't understand, and you're doing it in a way that sort of brings it alive, that makes it fun, that makes it, you know, that has a story in it. So you take something like the shale revolution, you know, the oil revolution and the gas revolution in the United States. I mean, this has enormous geopolitical consequences. You know, it's brought down the price of gas. It affects the environment. In the, you know, if you're switching from coal to gas, that's cleaner for the environment. And it undermines people like Vladimir Putin, who depend on, you know, oil and gas prices, which are now coming down, to stay in power. So it's hugely important. But when you're trying to bring it alive to an audience, you want to start with something at the human level. So you ask a question like, you know, why is it that there are so many more men than women in Williston, North Dakota, and what effect does that have there? And of course the reason is there are all these guys, you know, rushing up to North Dakota to get jobs as, you know, truck drivers or oil workers, because, you know, if you can pass a drug test, you can get a job for $100,000 a year up there without a college degree. So you've got loads of guys going up there, and not so many women, and that has this effect on the nightlife in the town. You know, I was talking to a young college student up there, and I said, how's the boom been for you? And she said, it's great, you know, I can make $200 a night working at a pizza restaurant in tips, you know, and I haven't had to pay for a date in, you know, since the boom began. And so that's, you kind of bring a sort of human thing on the story, and then that enables you to expand out and explain how that's going to affect jobs in America, the American economy, and America's relations with the rest of the world. You try to bind the two into a story.
Now, one of the things we always try to do here at Premier is we want to make sure that the event planner looks good and we make their life easier. So how do you do that as a speaker?
Well, I mean, the main thing I do as a speaker is I try to make sure I'm prepared. I mean, you know, my specialism is knowing what's going on in the world next week, right? So I'm going to tailor that to whatever it is I think the audience is going to be interested in. You know, if they're energy executives, they're going to be interested in a certain type of thing. If they're selling luxury goods, they're going to be interested in a different kind of thing. And, you know, maybe they want to know what's going on in Tennessee. Maybe they want to know what's going on in China. And I try to make sure that I'm on top of that. And then also the other thing I do is, because I travel a lot, you know, I've reported from 70 countries, I think, and because I talk to a lot of people, both in politics and in business, I just quite often know things which are interesting to the audience, and I like to give them a lot of time to ask questions. So, you can throw questions about absolutely anything at me, and there's a reasonable chance, unless you're asking me about baseball, that I will have something interesting to say.
Great. Well, thank you so much for watching this. If you click on the link below, you can see additional information on Robert, and then also make sure to subscribe to this channel for more interviews. So, Robert, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks very much.